Hey, you guys. So, our challenge today is to write a method that takes two parameters. One's a string containing a list of words separated by spaces, and an int called max length. This method should print the words in the string whose lengths are at most the max length. You can assume that there will always be a space after the last word in the string. So, this last sentence is a huge hint about how to do this problem. So, I haven't tried this yet, but let's see if we can build a solution together. The fact that there's going to be a space at the end kind of tells me, hey, this is how the question designer wants you to determine the end of a word. So like when you see a space, it should like trigger this process of uh, of seeing if the word is long enough and then adding it on. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can squeeze this all in 10 minutes. So what I'm going to say is that we're going to make a variable called the answer, and we're going to print that at the very end. Okay, so we're going to add on to it, so we need it to be an empty string right now. And then let's just, before we forget, let's print it. Okay, so we definitely need to go through the string. Okay, so let's make a for loop. It's going to go through the string. I is less than the string's length. And it's going to be I plus plus. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So basically we're going to look, and we know, let's just kind of assume that the string is going to start with a letter. Okay, so like you're never going to get any spaces at the beginning. And even if so, I don't even think that would be a problem. So here's a sample sentence that we can kind of look to for thinking. And I have my max length at 2 for the call. We'll talk about this particular example later. The general strategy should be if we see a space, right? If the char is a space, then we should kind of start doing stuff, right? We should start comparing it and adding it to the answer string and so on. So if the strings, the char at I is a space, and this is how you would say that. You can actually literally, since they're primitive, you can just compare them with the Boolean operator. It's kind of nice. So if it's a space, then we want to trigger this process of, we want to see, is the string short enough? All right, so how do we check that? Well, actually, we haven't even started building onto the string yet. So we know, or at least the first letter, it's going to pass this if, because it's not going to be a space. So let's then take the next part is that if it is not a string, or sorry, not a space, we're going to add that character onto a temporary string variable, like which is going to be a word, right? So let's have a word, I guess, in here, like a word variable, like string current word, and let's be able to add on to it by doing this. So we're going to append the current word with the character, with the string's character at I. Okay, so basically it's going to keep doing this, and as soon as we see a space, then we get to compare the word to the max length, and we're going to see if it's short enough to go ahead and go through here. So how about the max length? So basically what we have to do is, if we've caught a space, then that means we're at the end of a word. So basically we've built up a word from this little part of the algorithm, and we're going to take a look at it now. So if, it's going to be a nested if here, if the current word length is short enough, less than or equal to the max length, what we want to do is append it onto the answer. Okay, and if it's not, it'll just kind of go ahead and go through, right? After we see a space, we definitely, even if it's not long enough, what we need to do is reset this temporary variable. So it means we're starting over our word, right? So this is basically at the end of a word, we see a space, we do this check, and then even if it's long enough, or if it's not, or if it's too long, or if it's short enough, no matter what, we want this current word to be reset. And then it's going to skip this else and come back up here. So then at the end, we should be printing this. So what's going to happen then, I guess, if we run this? I don't like it when it highlights all that stuff and I can't get away from it. Oh, well, okay. So I think, let's see how many bugs are in here, right? Let's run this, and I should get the word a and is popping out from this one, but I probably don't. Oh, I did. Okay, pretty good. I just need to kind of like have a space between them, right? So I should probably put a space after this, just append it on. And then that would look pretty good, wouldn't it? A is. Okay, so basically we're looking at this sentence, and these are the only two letters, or sorry, the only two words with two or few characters. So there you go. The length is 2 or fewer. Let's try a different sentence with a different parameter. Remember, we need this at the end, basically, because that's going to trigger this whole check, right? That's a huge part of the problem. That's kind of like, that's crucial. If it didn't, we'd have to kind of build in an extra check to say, like, are you at the very last character? If so, then, I guess we could do an or here, right? If it didn't end with the space, you would have to be like, or if it's the last string, last letter of the whole string. But they don't want to have you deal with that. So they just say there'll be a space after every word. Let's try some different ones here. Sentences here. How about like, this is a tough problem. Okay, let's do this for strings of length 5 or fewer. Okay, what do we get? This is a tough, right? So all of those have 5 or fewer, and problem didn't make it in. What happens if I ask for stuff with length 1? Okay, it's pretty airtight. I think this is pretty good. What if I do like 100? It should all show up, right? It didn't work for that last one. Oh, you know why? Because I didn't have a space at the end here, did I? There you go. Because that space is needed in order to even trigger this process, remember? So actually we can kind of like, just for even bonus, extra double, triple bonus, we can make this method work for strings that don't have a space at the end by having this extra Boolean check here. If you see a space, or if it happens to be the very last character. So if I is equal to the string's length, or str.length, remember there's this off by 1 property of it. So if we're looking at the very last letter, that should be fine. So now I should be able to do this, and it should work. Yeah, and then so basically that last that last exclamation point doesn't get on there, but that's kind of a problem. Let's see if we can figure this out. This is double, triple bonus. So yeah, I'm losing the M. Let's see why. Pop. Because I don't add it on, do I? Right? Okay, so basically what I need to do is actually nest another if statement in here, right? So let's actually borrow this, because it doesn't get down below to add that char on. So let's do this. I'm going to copy this logic here. I'm going to nest it inside, right? I'm going to nest one more if statement here. If this is the case, then I want to append it with that. Okay, so that should be fine. Let's see if that worked. No, it totally didn't even work at all. Let's see. What's going on here? We've solved the main problem. Now we're going extra. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Let's back up, and I'm going to just leave the solution as was. We'll review it, and then I'm going to kind of make a video part 2 to figure out why this didn't work. I'm sure it's pretty obvious. It shouldn't really be that tough of a, you can kind of see how that last stipulation without the space at the end kind of like throws us a curveball. So this works. This is the question that was asked, and it's solved right now. So let's kind of review our strategy, and then we'll go even beyond and see if we can make it work without that space. Kind of struck out on it that first time, which is pretty normal for me actually, but usually I can figure it out. So let's figure this out here. Here's the strategy. We're going to have an answer string that's going to get added on as long as the string is short enough, or the word is short enough. And we have this current word that we're going to look at. Okay, so we build the current word as long as we're not looking at a space. Okay, if we're looking at a space, we trigger this process of, is this word that we've built short enough to be considered into the answer? If so, let's add it onto the answer. So we know for sure that since it's not going to be leading with a space, we're going to kind of start with the very first character. The index gets updated, characters keep getting added on until we see a space, and then we see, all right, is the word short enough? Yes, it's short enough. Okay, then add it to the answer, or if it's not, it won't add it. And then the current word that we're looking at starts over, and then we start building a new word. So we do have 20 seconds, so clearly I can't go to the extra part yet. So check out part 2. But this algorithm should be fine for the problem that was asked. Okay, we have 12 seconds. Let's just do one more for fun. Right, we should get, this is a problem. There we go, 4 seconds. See you guys later. Part 2 coming up.